All right, Steve, I just hit the record button and I just realized that we've been doing something different to kick off the episode. We're asking a random question. I didn't have anything prepared tonight. I don't have anything prepared. So you know what? We're just gonna roll into the episode 7 of Northbound. Let's go right now.
You're listening to Northbound, presented by Big Time Hoops. For the North, by the North, Big Time. And now your hosts, Tom Bard and Steve Carmichael.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Northbound, the podcast, brought to you by our friends at Katahdin Trust, community banking at its best. Tom Bard, joined by my co-host Steve Carmichael, and our apologies. We've been off for a minute. We were going to get together last week for an episode. Some stuff came up. We pushed it 2 days. 2 days turned into 4 days. It wound up being the end of the week, and we said, let's just wait till Sunday. We'll get caught up in the last 2 weeks. So our apologies, but we're here. Steve, what's going on, man? It's been a little while. We were just saying that.
There's only one full week left in the regular season now. So it's really time to hit the home stretch.
I
And
found
we've got to be on the air. I mean,
I
we can't
know.
be taking 2 weeks off again.
From here on out, I found that pretty crazy because I remember in the beginning of the season there was that stretch where like teams were playing like 3 games, 4 games in a week.
Yep.
But here we go into the last week of January. Some teams already have like 16 games played, but playoffs don't start for like another 3 weeks. How does that work?
While some schools are front loading, try to give themselves some sort of margin of error. And fortunately, this winter, the weather hasn't played too much of a factor. Let's hope that continues all the way through tournament.
Yeah, lack of snow up there in the county, man. I keep on seeing the measurements, the how much we've gotten so far on the newscast. You guys are struggling up there.
Yeah, not a lot compared to our usual winter. The snowmobilers are not happy about it, but I'll tell you, as a somebody that likes warm weather
Yep.
and no snow, I'm okay with it. But
And
it's been cold over the past couple weeks. I say not a lot of snow though has fallen.
yeah, what hasn't been cold is the basketball action here. So we're just going to get right into it. Like I said, we've been gone for 2 weeks. We got a lot of catching up to do. So the week that was is going to turn into the week, the last 2 weeks that was. We got a lot of catching up to do. Starting with the passing of Iffy Sargent. A lot of folks might have seen a lot of stuff going on up there in the county. A lot of different schools doing different things in memory of Iffy. Saw a lot of Jersey nights in his honor. Not too familiar with who Iffy is, Steve. I saw all the outpouring on social media, but if you could, he's I believe a Prescott Caribou kid, right? So, what exactly was going on the last couple of weeks with his passing here?
So Iffy was a student actually started in the Prescott system, ended up transferring over to Caribou and won a state championship in the Boo for Coach Corgan and his bunch. Iffy was probably the only kid that ever got a standing ovation, a chant, whatever it may be, from both sides of the gym. It would be a Prescott Caribou game, and let's face it, Prescott Caribou, there's no love lost there. But when it came to Iffy, there was all love, and both sections wanted him on the floor. He was a great kid. I would go into Falcon Transportation where he worked for his father, Bruce, and I could always count on Iffy coming behind me, grabbing me by the shoulder, saying, Stevie, how the Vikings looking this year? He loved to talk basketball, and the Jersey nights were a great symbol of just something that Iffy loved. He always loved to wear jerseys. So to see so many schools do the same thing and to show their love for Iffy Sargent and the rest of the Sargent family and the Falcon Transportation crew was just awesome. And if you want, when he came into the game, it was a tournament game. It was against Washington Academy in the quarterfinal. I posted the video on my Facebook page, and it just showed the amount of love that he got when he knocked down that jumper. That was the loudest eruption, probably even louder than when Sawyer Depre laid it in to win a state championship over Marana Cook.
Yeah.
Nothing was better than when Iffy was able to score in the tournament. So very sad news up here in Aroostook County, and we've been thinking about the Sargent family a lot, but Iffy was just a great human being.
Thoughts and prayers go out to the family with that one. Another thing that I was seeing, see, this is done on our rundown on our sheet here, and this is how I should have opened up the episode because it directly relates to how we started off when you first came on here. I've been seeing this popcorn review thing that Aroostook County Hoops is doing on Facebook. So
time out. It started with Easton. So Chase Llewellyn and I think it's King has been going to schools, and they do a popcorn review,
Okay.
and that's kind of where it picked up. So credit to the Easton boys
Okay.
for coming
Okay.
up with
I
it.
like it. And I just been kind of seeing it take off. I'm seeing something every day on the feed for Bristol County Hoops. So you came on the Zoom call tonight with some popcorn that I saw you munching on. So do you have a favorite popcorn of anything up there in the county? Because you go to a lot of these games. Is there one that stands out? Who's got the best
I
popcorn up there?
I'm not. When I go to a game, typically I don't get a bag of popcorn. There's a lot of people that do. I am
Yeah.
one of the people that actually avoids it. My favorite pregame snack. I spend a lot of time in Presque Isle. They added a pretzel with cinnamon sugar. That is my pregame snack, and that gets
All
me
right.
through every doubleheader. So shout out to the athletic boosters in Presque Isle for adding that to the menu. They're phenomenal. They even made me one during the JV game, which they typically don't.
Yeah.
They made a special order for Stevie. So I appreciate that.
Shocking. You're showing Presque Isle love already in the
Hey,
episode. Here we go.
but that is like the only concession stand I visit. If it's not to get the pretzel, I get a water.
Yep.
That's it, just to get me through the doubleheader or
You're,
one or two games, doesn't matter.
you're a pro. That's what it is. You ain't got time to snack. You're there to do a
Yeah.
job.
I got coaches to chat with. I got,
Yeah. Exactly.
got to play the political game here.
Exactly. You're a busy guy. Some more news from the county this week. Tristan Robbins, the stand-up from Caribou, announced his commitment to the University of Maine at Farmington. Congratulations to him. Congratulations to Farmington. They're just racking up these Maine kids. We went over their roster on an episode earlier in the season, and it was like 10 of like the 13 guys are all from Maine, maybe even more. I just remember it's Maine, 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 Maine. So they're getting another one. But congrats to Tristan, someone we've talked a lot about on this year's podcast.
Yeah, Tristan, I knew there'd been a lot of conversations. Farmington was the school that I heard was the front runner. But Tristan's having a great year. He's top 5 in scoring, top 10 in rebounding, and I think he's leading the Big East in assists as a 6'4", 6'5" center. Complete player, having a great year for the Vikings. That's a big get for Farmington.
No doubt. So congratulations to Tristan. More county kids going on to play some college ball. We'd love to see it.
Yes, sir.
1,000-point milestone last week for Claire Gattani of John Bapst. She got her 1,000 point for the Crusaders. She's having herself a phenomenal year. I know a lot of the talk in the Big East has been about Madeline Dupre, but Claire Gattani currently second in the Big East in scoring at 17.8 points per game. First in steals at 4.7. Just an absolute two-way player who also announced that she's going to be playing in college as well. We mentioned in a couple episodes back going to Bates, if I'm not mistaken. So congratulations to Claire on hitting another milestone and getting that 1,000 points.
Yeah, and the Crusaders sitting 5th right now in the Class B heel point standings, but it's not just her ability to score and defend, the way she can distribute. She's an all-around player, and happy to see her get rewarded with those 1,000 points.
Absolutely. Another 1,000-point scorer this week, Addison Sear from, I'm going to say it wrong again because I always do, Madanawcook.
Madanawcook. You're making me say it.
Yeah, there we go. She gets her 1,000 points as only a junior. So she's going to keep climbing up the ranks as she finished out her career there. She had 24 points and 12 rebounds in the 57-29 win over Dexter to get her 1,000th point. So congratulations to Addison.
Yeah, traditional player in the post. So nice back to the basket game. There's a lot of her work inside. But yeah, 1,000 points as a junior. She's got a chance to climb up the rankings a lot more over the next year.
One of the best bigs in the state, regardless of class. She was the MVP of our Rising Stars game last year, and she's going to be in the All-Star game this year. So congratulations to her. Another 1,000-point scorer, Isaiah Urban from Holton, became only the 5th boys player in program history to reach 1,000 points. I found that pretty shocking considering the proud history that Holton has and the amount of guys that have rolled through there. Only the 5th boy. He joins a legend by the name of Terry Cummings, Lucas Ritchie, Kyle Bouchard, who was Mr. Basketball for the Shires, and Keegan Gentle. So he now adds his name to that list. Girls' side is just as loaded as well with some names that you might know. Carol Bubar, Alyssa Colette, Mary Harrigan, Diane Nagel, Hannah Sokobi, Rachel Foster, Vanessa Sanderson, and another Bouchard, Colleen. So ton of great basketball players that have come to that program. And what a week for him because he was also a finalist for the Fitzpatrick Award, which gets handed out to the state's best football player. He did not win that one, but just to be named a finalist, which I found pretty impressive for the fact that Aroostook County is not really what you think of when you think of high school football.
Right. Yeah. There's not a lot of football programs in Aroostook County. I think Holton's, and then you have the Huskies, which is not really affiliated with any school.
Yep.
But no, Isaiah Irvin leading the Big East in scoring and rebounding. He has a motor on him that does not quit. That's why he's a great quarterback in football. I'm pretty sure he's a great lacrosse player as well. He's just a great athlete
Yep.
all around. Great kid too. 1,000 points, and he battled a foot injury last year, so it's nice to see him be healthy in his senior year. And he's doing a lot of great things for Holton.
Yeah. So shout out to him and shout out to Aroostook County Hoops, man. That's where I got all that info. They are fantastic at Aroostook County Hoops. So
Yep.
if you don't follow them on Facebook, go give them a follow. Camden Pelletier from Wisdom became the boys' all-time leading scorer, passing Carter Pelletier. There's got to be a relation. I can't confirm if it's brother, cousin, or what, but a small town like that, they got to be related.
Yeah, the Camden's been a bucket since he got there, and but yeah, he's great scorer, leading Wisdom to the tournament last year, trying to do the same this year. Big time congrats to Camden.
While we're at it, while we're talking about Wisdom Boys Hoops, I just want to shout out my boy Chad Gervais, who was also 1,000-point scorer for the Pioneers back in the day. So anytime I can shout out Chad, I'm gonna shout him out. But Wisdom Hoops, love it. Another 1,000-point milestone this time in the college ranks, Parker Desjardins. You guys might remember him from his exploits at Forest Hills a couple years ago. Now at Thomas, he gets his 1,000th point. He was also recently named the North Atlantic Conference Co-Player of the Week. He scored 20 points in all 4 games during that stretch, including a career high of 41. But we should not be surprised because the kid was a 2,000-point scorer in high school. And he had his senior year during the shortened COVID year. And he had a lot of ground to make up to hit that 2,000-point mark. And I think he had like a stretch of like 9 games where it was 40 or above and just absolutely went off that senior year. So glad to see him doing well in college. The guy's a bucket. I don't know if what else you can add to that.
Well, just another example of a kid from a small school that can play at the next level. So for college coaches out there, don't worry about the size of the school. The kid can play. Kid can play.
Yep. From good old Jackman, Maine. What a place, Jackman. Let's keep it going here. Ellie Austin from PVHS, one of their standouts who's got them on track probably to win a state championship the way they're hooping. She committed to Husson this week. So another Maine high school girls basketball player sticking in state, another Northern Maine girl going to Husson. So congratulations to her. And Husson just brings them in, Stevie.
Yeah, and Ellie is a terrific defender. She's about 5'10", 5'11", really long arms.
Yeah.
And can handle the basketball, can finish inside, can shoot from the perimeter. Just a great all-around player. Nice get once again for Kissy Walker, who proven that she can recruit and can recruit in the state, and then the Eagles will compete.
Another milestone this week for another female in the ranks, Lexi Ireland at Umpy. She reached 1,000 career rebounds to go along with her 1,000 career points. She's the first player in program history to reach 1,000 rebounds. And she did it in impressive fashion. She had a triple-double in that game, leading the way with 22 points, 16 rebounds, and 12 assists in a 79-67 win over Vermont State University Johnson. That win improved Umpy to 3-4 in the NAC. So congratulations to her. That's a huge milestone. We see a lot of 1,000-point scores, Steve. We don't typically see 1,000 rebound achievement, and to do both, that's quite the accomplishment.
That is definitely quite the accomplishment. Lexi was a great high school player and right into college doing the same thing.
In other Umpy news, the men have been rolling. This has got to be one of the best seasons they've had in program history. Yep. This is a little bit older. This is from last week. They won their 7th in a row over Vermont State University Johnson. They won that one 78-74. They improved to 14-3 in the season at that point, 6-1 in the NAC. And at the time, they were just a half game out of first behind Farmington and Husson. They played Thomas on Friday. I did not mark down the result of that, so I do not know how that went. But Umpy just doing great things, Steve. I don't like to usually talk about Umpy because I'm a Bengal guy, but nonetheless, very impressive where they're at and to be right in the title race along with Husson and UMF. Programs in the right direction, heading in the right direction under Danny Kane.
I was just going to try to pull up the box score. It looks like Umpy defeated Thomas 82-68. So they have now won 8 in a row with a victory over Thomas. So, yeah, no, shout out to the Owls. I'm about to go catch a game here right
I
off.
know. You need to.
Yeah.
You're right there. You have no excuse. No
I know.
excuse to not go show him some love. In the college ranks, Zach McLaughlin, someone we talked a lot about last year when he was at Hamden Academy, was Rookie of the Week honor roll by the BCWA, the Maine Men's Basketball College Writers Association. He had 17 points, 5 rebounds, and 1 block and 1 steal as the Beavers went 1-0 last week. So congratulations to him. A couple UMFK games of note. I just want to mention real quick. My Bengals played UMaine Augusta last week, and they took care of business. So I just want to mention that one. And then the men and women also swept Thomas College over the weekend as well. So my Bengals, they had like a whole month off. They didn't play till January 20th. But now that we're back and rolling, we're all set. So congratulations to my Bengals. I'm picking up a couple wins right there. In Big East Player of the Week news, Jackson Berry from Ellsworth, who's someone we haven't mentioned as a Big East Player of the Week so far this season because it's been dominated by names we've already mentioned, like Tristan Robbins, Isaiah Irvin. He got Big East Player of the Week last week, averaging 15.5 points, 17 rebounds per game in 2 games last week. So, Steve, not a name we've really mentioned this year at all. What can you tell us about Jackson Berry?
Comes off the bench for Ellsworth. I had their
Okay.
game the other day. Actually, it would have been yesterday against Presque Isle. And but when he comes off the bench, he's a big guy inside.
Yeah.
Gets a lot of opportunities. He's quick off the floor. 15 and a half, 17 rebounds, probably the most impressive part of that. But comes off the bench as a 6-man, putting up those kind of numbers. That is quite a luxury for Coach Matson.
Absolutely. On the girls' side, Madeline Dupre, someone you might have heard of. We talked about her a little bit this year. She gets another Big East Player of the Week award. 23.5 points per game, 7 rebounds, 4.5 steals per game. So getting it done on both sides of the floor, Steve.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Yeah.
I don't know what else I can say about her that I haven't already said.
Okay. Someone else who's awesome, Cooper Flagg, had quite the week as well. He had a quote-unquote homecoming last week at Boston College, in which, by all accounts that I've heard, it was 90% Duke fans, and most of them Mainers that took the trip down. And he put on quite the performance for those folks, and then had a big game yesterday as well on the road at Wake Forest. I don't know if you watched that one, Steve,
Yeah,
but 24 on that one again, came up big down the stretch. And if there was any discussion at all about Cooper Flagg maybe not being the number 1 pick, maybe other folks working their way into that discussion, I think he's shut down all those discussions at this point as he just keeps getting better and better from game to game here.
I mean, he's taken over.
Yeah.
Everything. I mean, at the end of the game, there was some worries about, I can't remember which game it was. Was it in Arizona that he had a couple turnovers down the stretch?
Oh, that was Kentucky. That was like the second
Kentucky,
game or
okay.
third game of the year. Yeah.
And people are like, oh, I saw the posts on Twitter and all that stuff. Give the kid a chance, and he has adapted quickly in hostile environments because everybody's going at Cooper.
Yeah.
And I just love how he absorbs it and welcomes the challenge from every team, every fan base. And I'm glad to say he's from Maine.
Yeah. As the kids say, he's got that dog in him, right? He's a dog.
He does.
That's what he is. He's a dog. Another milestone this week. Coach Kyle Corrigan from the Caribou Vikings racked up career win number 100 in Caribou's win over Holton that happened over the past week. So congratulations to Kyle Corrigan on the milestone. In only his 6th season at Caribou, Steve, does that sound right?
Yep, that is correct.
That is a lot of wins.
15 wins a year. Yeah,
Holy
it's a little over 15 wins a year. So,
and that includes 2 state championships and having his team in contention for possibly a 3rd this year as well.
Yeah, no, it's, as I always said about Coach Corrigan, I think what people don't appreciate about him as much as they think they should is attention to detail.
Yeah.
I think there's always little nuances of coaching and certain things that some coaches are just better than others at. And I think Coach Corrigan, the way he can manage a game and manage his kids and the rotation with all the talent he has and the personalities, I just think he does a phenomenal job, and Caribou's very lucky to have him.
Absolutely. So congratulations to him. And he's young. He could stick it out and he could get to 200, 300, 400 if he wanted to. But
so that means I'm young because we graduated the same year.
Exactly. So. Hey, if you're young, I'm young too. We're all still young. We're just getting going here.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll get to episode 100 before we know it.
And I knew it was his 100th win before the game, and they ended up scoring 105 points that night.
Yeah.
And He was like, well, don't say anything. I said, I didn't, to keep it about, because it was senior night too.
Yeah.
Focus on the seniors.
Focus
And
on
then
the
the next,
kids.
yeah. And then the next day you could kind of mention it and yada, yada, yada. But then picked up win 101 and 102 this weekend over Ellsworth and MDI.
Just, all he wants is that win that last game of the year. Get that gold
Right.
ball. That's the one that really matters. So we'll see what
Exactly.
happens. I didn't have any major big time performances of the week, so we're just going to jump into the playoff picture because, like you mentioned, we're coming up on the end of the season here. Some teams only have 2 or 3 games left to go in the regular season, and they're done. So I'm not going to talk about Double A boys just for the fact that Bangor's having a bit of a down year, currently sitting in last. But that doesn't mean that they can't make it happen and maybe have an upset in the first round of the tournament. But we're just going to move on down to A boys here and get the conversation going. So current playoff picture in A North, Messalonsky is sitting at number 1 at 13-2. Brewers second at 12-2. Hamden Academy sitting there in third at 11-3. And then we got Coney at 8-6 to round out the top 8. Mount Blue, Camden Hills, Gardner, and Nokomis. Big game this week on the 31st. Brewer travels to Hamden Academy for the second of their 2 matchups this season. With some real implications in the standings. So that's the game that I'm looking forward to this week. But Steve, as we look
Are
at
you going to it?
I want to. I just got to ask permission from the missus. I got to be on my best behavior this week. So hopefully, whenever that game rolls around, I'm all set to go. So my plan is to go if everything checks out. But as
Friday
we look,
night.
right, nothing wrong with that, right? It's perfect timing.
Exactly.
So as we look at the A North playoff picture, what kind of stands out to you?
Well, Messalonsky, again, that was the team I've talked about that I was getting mixed reviews of during the preseason. And I know that believe they sent us some stat work here, correct? And Ty Bernier is having a great year, 19.5 points per game. He's third in the KVAC in scoring right now. And I saw him having some great shooting percentages as well. Messalonsky, they really put a hurting on Camden Hills. If I can pull up the most recent game they had, I'm just going to take a look at some of their scores. Yeah, so they have won 8 games in a row. They beat Camden Hills 76-51, Coney by 3, Greeley by 2, Hamden by 9, Mount Blue by 9. And they've been tested, and they've been in a lot of close games. Nokomis by 8, Lewiston by 1. And those are the type of grind out games that you have to have if you're going to come home with a gold ball. And right now, Messalonsky's answering the bell.
You mentioned that one over Camden Hills. They won that one by 24 just this past week. They lost to Camden Hills earlier in the season. That's what that was their last loss was against Camden Hills, and they lost pretty convincingly. They lost by 26 on the road, so that's a big win for them right there. And they currently sit atop the standings. Any other takeaways, Steve, as you look at A North? It kind of seems like might have those top 3 teams is what it's going to come down to: Meso, Brewer, and Hamden Academy. But Camden Hills does have the number 1 scorer in the KVAC, Nolan Ames, the junior, averaging 24.2 points per game. And they do have a win over Messalonsky. So you said Camden could be in there come playoff time. Are you still sticking by that?
Yeah, just kind of a sleeper, something to keep an eye on. I'm not going to sit here and I think it's similar to last year with A, right? We really weren't sure who was the favorite going into the tournament at Augusta. I think it's similar this year. You can say Messalonsky Brewer, again, with Higgins and being 4-14 last year, back to the tournament in a competitive standpoint. How will they respond? Hamden is always good come tournament time with Coach Bartlett. Coney as well. They only lost to Messalonsky by 3 in their last match. So I think that, Class A could be a really interesting tournament to watch.
Yeah, and we're not going to have to wait too much longer. It's going to be here before we know it. So any other takeaways from A, Steve, before we move on down to B?
Negative, sir.
All right. So like I mentioned, the 31st on Friday, the big one for me, Brewer traveling to Hamden Academy. That's the one to watch this week. As we look at B North, those Caribou Vikings still sitting atop the standings and still putting a hurting on teams, but they were challenged yesterday. MDI came to, or they went to MDI, right?
No, the MDI came up to the county.
Okay, so MDI came up to the county and Caribou held on to that one. They won 59 to 55. to hold on for the win. Owen Corrigan led the way with 16 points for the Bikes. Your takeaways from that game, Steve? MDI is a team that you talked about in the past. Is upset minded. They almost pulled it off yesterday, but thoughts on B North?
Went to the semifinals last year as a 10 seed.
Yep.
Which you called.
Which you called.
I did call.
Yeah.
One thing you're always going to know about MDI is they're going to be well coached by Justin Norwood. No doubt about that. And they have, I think guard play is so important in Maine high school basketball. And they have one of the premier guards in James Witham, who's a guy that I told you about. And you love his game, the shiftiness, how crafty he is. He had 29 in the game. He couldn't miss.
Yeah.
And he had his ability to change speeds, change directions, finish in the paint, also shoot from the perimeter. And the best part about him, he does not miss free throws. And those add up all game long, and he can step to the free throw line and ice games away in those tight battles in the Big East and at tournament.
And he's a confident little guy too.
He is.
That's what I like. That's what I like about him.
Little swagger. There's nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with it. We love to see that.
But he's got MDI. They got, Preston Tripp is a guy that, I think he comes off the bench for them, or maybe starts. I don't remember. Of course, I did their game on Friday and I've already forgotten, but that's a name that stuck out to me as a guy that's kind of a pest. He's a little annoying on the defensive end, but that's a guy you love to have on your team.
Yeah, that's who you want as a teammate right there.
Hate to play against him, but you love to have him. Hodgson is a scorer for them. Beekert is a strong kid on the inside. I really like MDI. They are a dangerous team. If they end up, right now they're sitting in the 8th spot. I don't expect them to stay there. I think they'll eventually go up. But if they get to the tournament, they are a dangerous team. And with them, just a sophomore, they've got a damn good future ahead of them as well.
Yeah.
I also want to shout out, but I do still want to shout out Caribou. That was a gut check win for them. They were down by 5 going into the 4th quarter and able to pull out the victory.
Yep.
So still Caribou, and then they avenged their only loss from previous season. They defeated Ellsworth by 15 to 20 points on Friday night.
Current standings: Caribou number 1, Ellsworth 2, Orono 3, Old Town 4, and then around at the top 8 we got Miranda Cook, Herman, Winslow, and MDI. So Steve, as we look at B North, I want you to go ahead and create some tiers for us here. Give me that top tier that has a chance to come out of the North, and then that next tier after that might be able to make some noise come tournament time.
I mean, I think if you're going to make a tier, first off, I'll make a favorite. If Caribou is playing the way they can, if they're playing their A or A minus game, I don't think anybody can beat them. I think Caribou's the best team. And I said that before the season. Everybody, Steve, you love Caribou. It's like, no, I watch the games. It's, Caribou's got the best team. Ellsworth, I think you can throw in a tier with Caribou. If there was a team that I would put in the same as them, it would have to be Ellsworth. Then I think that's it. I think that's like S tier.
That's it.
And then after them, you can throw in, Orono with their championship caliber. You can put them in there. Man, I'm just trying to find it because all these teams have kind of beaten each other. Like Old Town's 4th. They lost to Presque Isle. MDI's beaten Presque Isle twice. They also beat Herman, and MDI lost to Herman. So it's hard to make a set tier of those teams. Like Holton is 12th. They split with Presque Isle. Foxcroft has really gotten better as the season has gone on with Barungi and folks. So it's hard. Other than Cameron Ellsworth, you can throw them all into one tier and say, maybe at any given night, one can beat each other. I just don't think any of those teams have enough at tournament time to beat Caribou or Ellsworth. I think Caribou and Ellsworth will play for the final.
Caribou's got a quiet week. They don't play again until Saturday. They travel to Old Town, and then they close out the season next week away at Presque Isle. So only 2 more games left on the season for them. Are you on the call for that last game of the year, Caribou at Presque Isle? Is that going to be yours?
Of course.
Okay. That's what we like to see. That's what we like to hear Steve on the call when we check out WHOU.
I have a pretty low week. Actually, I'm off until Wednesday this week. And then
you're not going to know what to do with yourself this week.
And then Wednesday, Friday, and then I'm off until the Caribou Presque Isle games, and I end the season with Madawaska Fort Fairfield.
Let's drop it on down to C here.
Speaking of Class C, yeah.
Yeah. I do want to bring up one game of note from last week. There was a huge rivalry game My Fort Kent Warriors traveled to Madawaska. And I tuned in on YouTube. I was watching it on W Owl online, hoping to see us go in there and just get the win. And we did not get the win. We actually got smacked around a little bit. Madawaska remained undefeated. They won that one 76-45. So they gave it to us. Quinn Pelletier with 21 points in that one. Aiden Jeffers, my nephew, 22 for my Warriors. But as we look at the Class C standings, currently at the very top, Mattanock, which I said wrong again, 14 and
You're
0.
getting closer though.
Yeah, I'm trying. I really am. Somehow my Warriors at 9 and 6 are second. And then we got Hodgson 3, Machias 4, Madawaska at 13 and 0 is fifth, followed by Dexter, Callis, and Mount View to round out the top 8. So Steve, as we look at Class C, I don't know if you can tier these teams as well in terms of who has a legitimate chance to come out of the North and kind of who else falls under that. But as you look at these standings, what's your biggest takeaway?
Yeah, well, Fort Kent does still, even though they are 9-6 and they've lost 2 in a row, they still have some big wins. The discrepancy between the value of C versus D, like you could play a D schedule, is really not that much. Even if you did like a 5-point differential, it doesn't really make a difference. So they've beaten Fort Fairfield. They defeated Southern Aroostook, Wisdom, Katahdin, who has a lot of wins at D, Central Aroostook, Easton. I mean, they've beaten mostly D schools, but they're the good ones.
Yeah.
They're the good, high quality Class D teams. So that's what's carrying Fort Kent, and that just shows that as far as the system is concerned, whether you play a C or D schedule, it doesn't really matter in the heel point standings. But Fort Kent to me would still be, if I were to make a tier, Mattanock, Fort Kent, just as the standings have played out actually, Mattanock, Fort Kent, Hodgson, Machias, Madawaska, and Mount View. Do not forget
At number 8,
the Mustangs, folks.
Yeah.
Okay, if you forgot about them last year, don't make that mistake again. I would still throw them in there.
You're picking 6 teams that could legitimately win Class C North?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Another game that I want to mention from Class C this week too. Hodgson did have a little excitement. I don't know what it is with Hodgson, but they like to take it right down to the wire to get these wins. Brody Little hit a game winner for Hodgson to beat Southern Aroostook last week. They won that one 58-56. He had a putback on an offensive rebound with 3 seconds to go for the win. So they like to do it in dramatic fashion, Steve. What is it with these Hodgson Hawks and just making things interesting?
I don't know. You saw what David Tuttle does when they play Fort Kent.
I didn't want to bring up his name, but you didn't need to bring up his name.
Sorry, man. But just that's Hodgson has a flair for the dramatic.
Yeah.
And that may bode well for tourney time.
We'll see. There's a big one in Class C tomorrow night, or tonight as this episode comes out. Madawaska travels to Fort Kent for the rematch in Fort Kent. And ladies and gentlemen, I have breaking news confirmed. He's already up there. Trophy mode is going to be in the building for Fort Kent Madawaska tonight. I'm super excited that he's coming to Fort Kent. And
I'm off tomorrow. Maybe I might scoot up there.
Take the trip. It's a big deal. Trophy actually going all the way north for this one to get the rivalry game. So, folks, if you weren't planning on going, just go for the fact that Trophy's going to be there. I need Fort Kent to show up, show out, be loud, and let's get this win. And we'll get a trophy mode mix out of it, and we'll just take over the interwebs. So I'm excited for tomorrow night's game, or tonight's game, I should say. So
Trophy put the miles on, huh?
He's putting the miles on. He really wants to go see Quinn play. But you know what? I think we got to ruin this little trip for Trophy's there for Quinn. We got to ruin that. We got to make it a Fort Kent thing. So let's show up and represent, like I said. Let's drop it on down to D North as we look at the heel points as they load on my computer here. Number 1, Skank, 13-1, followed by Katahdin, Bangor Christian, the defending state champs, at number 3. Southern Aroostook, and they're at number 4 with only 7-8, but they're getting out at the right time. I believe they've won 4 in a row. Rounding out the top 8, Southern Aroostook, Easton, Lee, and Jonesport. And Beals, let's go ahead and tier them again. Steve, how do you break down D North?
S tier, I'd put Skank and I think Katahdin and probably Bangor Christian as the S tier. Following that, Central Rustic, Southern Rustic, the Popcorn Boys, and Easton
Yeah.
probably in the next tier. You probably saw Lee Academy in there as well with Coach Harris. Central Rustic is kind of they're an interesting team. They're up to 7-8. Picked up a couple big wins. So how many did they lose in a row? They lost 6 in a row in the middle of their schedule, and now they've beaten Fort Fairfield, Washburn, Easton, and Fort Kent in their last. So they won 4 in a row. So they're playing better at the right time of the season. They got a big game tomorrow night against Southern Rustic on the road, and then they'll also be on the road against Hodgson to end their season on February 4th. But Central Rustic, very young team. Shout out to Kellen McCrum. Big game up in Fort Kent, had the 26 points, and that's exactly what the Panthers need. Kind of know what you're going to get from Jaleel Joseph, right? He's a scorer. He's going to be able to slash to the basket, knock down some jumpers. It's Will Whited. It's Kellen McCrum. It's Dylan McKean, who played very well up in Fort Kent, too. Those are the guys that are going to have to step up. And Ben Woodworth, too, if the Panthers are going to make a deep tournament.
Any sleepers? Anyone you want to take a pick on to possibly make some noise?
Well, the Panthers were one. I still like Easton's interesting because Chase Llewellyn if he has a big game, he can really score. Cochran as well is a terrific player. Easton went on the road. They're a gritty team. Coach Warren does a great job with the Bears. Southern Rustic with Trafton Russell and Ethan Collier too. Those are some teams, 4 through 6. Elite Academy ended up beating Central Rustic. They lost by, I think, double digits and then turned around and beat them. So always got to watch out for the Pandas too. There's a few teams in D that could be sleepers, but those top 3 with Skank, Katahdin, and Bangor Christian, I think are just a little bit better than everybody else. So I would expect the champion to come from those 3.
Okay. We're going to find out soon. It's almost that time of year.
Probably next week. What is it? So next week I'll have to I'll have to do my predictions, right? Because basically we'll know the prelims.
Yeah, we'll know the prelims at least.
Yeah.
You got a little bit more time to do your homework before you make your picks. So
good to know.
A lot of pressure after how well you performed last year. And you got to try to follow
last year.
Yeah. So we'll have to see what you got to proceed this year.
Yeah.
Switching gears over the girls' side in AA North, just want to shout out my Bangor Rams. 10-5 in the season, but they currently sit in 5th. It is just a log jam with those teams. Bangor in 5th, Edward Little 4, Wyndham 3, Shovers 2, Oxford Hills 1. They've all kind of beat up on each other this season. So it should be interesting come tournament time. Bangor has a big one on the road this week. They travel to Edward Little, who sits right in front of them. That is on Friday night. So that'll be a big game for them. And then they close out their season with a couple in-town-ish sort of rivalry games, Hamden Academy and Brewer to round up the year. So almost that time, we'll see if the Bangor Rams can make some noise in the tournament and maybe get out of the second round and get to a regional final appearance. On the A North girls side, no surprise here. Lawrence still sitting undefeated at 14-0. Our boy Brady King did make the trip to Lawrence this week to take in the Lawrence Oceanside girls game. And I got a text from him shortly after the game. And he said basically that Maddie is that dude. She is legit. She is a hooper. I think he gave her the ultimate compliment. He said she plays just like a dude. And I was like, that's probably the best compliment you can give a girl. And if you haven't seen the mix, he put out a Maddie Provost mix this week. She is an absolute hooper.
Yeah. Was there a doubt?
No doubt about it. But it's just I've been trying to get Brady up there all season long to show Maddie some love, and he was finally able to make it. But it's just another one of those players that if you don't get to see her at all until tournament time, you're missing out because she's the real deal. So shout out to Maddie on putting on a show for Brady when he went to go see her.
Miss Basketball 2026.
She's got to be the front runner right now. Let's go ahead and
she has to be. There's no way she's not.
Go ahead and make that bet right now.
Yeah.
We mentioned that Lawrence probably wouldn't be challenged until it was time for that rivalry game with Coney.
It's the week.
And it is the week. They play on the 28th. So they play Tuesday night. That one's going to be at Coney. So circle the schedule for that one, ladies and gentlemen. That'll be a fun one to see. Coney currently sitting number 2 at 13-1, followed by Hamden Academy, Camden Hills, and then rounding up the top 8, Gardner, Brewer, Skowhegan, and Nokomis. So Lawrence is gonna get their first real test of the year this week, Steve.
Well, that's what I say. I felt bad for kind of not really ignoring Class A girls, but just that we were all waiting for Lawrence and Coney to play
Yeah.
to really decide who you can say is the favorite. I would lean Lawrence because of Provost primarily with how good she is. However, Coney, 13-1, you can't scoff at that record and what they did last year as well. That's the game to watch this week. I'm off Tuesday night too. Maybe I'll make the trip down to Fairfield.
Why not? Why not?
Yeah. I mean,
two of the leading scorers going at it too in the KVAC. Abby Morrill from Coney, she's averaging 18.9. This is as of 15, so stats are a little bit behind here. But shout out to TJ Maines who gets these stats out from the KVAC. Thank you for sending them our way so we could use them as well. Maddie Provost, 18.7 points per game. So two of the better players in A North will be going at it in that one. Anything else you want to talk about, Steve, in A, or do you want to drop it on down to B girls?
I think it's a 2-team race. It's the Lawrence Bulldogs and the Coney Rams.
As we mentioned, we get to see them go at it this week.
Yep. Twice, though. They play the February 4th as well.
Yeah, so 2 games coming up in a short span. That's going to tell us a lot about what the playoff picture may look like here. We drop it on down to B girls. No surprise. Caribou girls sitting at the very top, and they are rolling, Steve, 14-1 in the year. They are followed by Old Town second, MDI third, Erskine Academy at 12-2, currently number 4th. And then rounding out the top 8, John Babs, Presque Isle, Ellsworth, and Maranacook. So at this point in the season, Steve, probably not surprised to see Caribou where they are. Biggest takeaways from B North as we get closer and closer to playoff time here.
Yeah, no surprise with Caribou with Madeline Depre as the premier player. She is one of the front runners for Miss Basketball in the state of Maine. Likely be 3-time Big East Player of the Year following the season. Definitely no surprise about Caribou. Shout out Coach Heather Richards and the Old Town Coyotes. They lose their 2 best players in Sage Evans and Michaela Emerson, and they just keep on moving along. Taylor Madden and Karina Dumond and the rest of the Coyotes, shout out. Impressive job. Well done. That is a program that is really turning into one of the premier programs in the entire state of Maine.
Yep.
So shout out to Coach Richards doing a great job in Old Town. I had the standings pulled up. I was going to go over them really quick. MDI saw them this weekend with Coach Barker. Lily Norwood, 25 points. They hit 10 threes in their victory over Presque Isle. Lily Norwood, Father Justin, he was a great shooter. Lily's got perfect mechanics, terrific jump shooter. Callie Trenholm came off the bench, had 4 threes for the Trojans. Lexi Tozier, who was won a Big East Player of the Week award. MDI is a threat to bring home the crown. And for Erskine Academy, I want to shout out them. Had their assistant coach, Coach Reed, reach out to me this week or this past couple weeks on Instagram. Please, coaches, if we don't talk about your team, it's not because we don't want to. It's just I don't get down to South China very often, and I don't have a lot of chances to watch games at night either. I'm tired. I'm dealing with my kids.
Yeah.
It's just part of it. So he reached out just to give me some background on his team. And Erskine's always a team that seems to be at the tournament. And I appreciate Coach Reed reaching out to me directly on Instagram. I'm not hard to find. And he did that. So I'll go over that. They have 2 juniors, 8 sophomores, 1 freshman. They're the 4th highest scoring team in the state. And I did notice that game where they beat Madomic. I think I mentioned that on the podcast. And he said that's probably one of the biggest wins they've had in the past 3 years. And their leading scorer is sophomore Kelsey Dunn. And that they had a terrific summer, and they beat some of the premier teams in Class B. So they're hoping that will turn into a good showing when they get to Bangor. Right now, they are in a bye spot to get to the Cross Insurance Center. So shout out to Coach Reed and Erskine Academy. I hope to see you in Bangor, because if I do, I'm going to make sure I come over and say hi.
Yeah. They might have had a good summer, but you know what? I want to give more credit to the fact that they were at the MGBL Fall Showcase. They came and played in that. That's what got them ready, folks. If you want to get ready come your regular season, come to the Fall Showcase. Come join the MGBL. Get some great running. I mean, look at Erskine Academy. They're just 2 losses on the year as a result. So shout out to them. Go ahead.
No, I was going to go through the rest of the standings, but if you got something to say, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I know that you're a bit of a homer when it comes to Presque Isle. No shame, because I'm the same way with my Warriors. But if there's one program that I feel like you give the most love to consistently on the pod, I feel like you love the MDI Trojans. You give MDI so much love. I feel like on every episode since we've
Really?
been doing this. Yeah. I feel like you got a thing for MDI.
No, again, talked to Coach Barker a little bit this weekend about his team, and I was just really impressed at how they played. They're the only team to beat Caribou
Yeah.
as well, the girls on the season. So, I think MDI has always been a great team, great program, and on the boys and the girls side. So just good folks on the island. I just rented an Airbnb for the Harbor House coming up in a couple months. So
Yeah.
I got to make sure I don't get robbed when I'm down there.
Yeah, that's true.
No. So, but John Baps in the fifth spot. Yeah, we talked about Presque Isle. They lost MDI, but then turned around, played a great game against the Ellsworth Eagles the next day. Ellsworth injuries just have completely derailed. And shout out to Coach Pooler and the rest of the Eagles for just marching on, still in postseason play to get a home prelim right now. And I don't know what is left on their schedule. They're 9-6 currently. I'm not sure what they got left for points. Well, they got John Baps, Washington Academy, and MDI. So, yeah, there's some points left on their schedule to potentially move up into a bye spot because they're not too far behind Erskine Academy right now. Miranda Cook in eighth, Belfast, Foxcroft, WA, and Herman round out the current postseason position placeholders. So Class B, kind of a hodgepodge right now. I have never heard that I love MDI too much. That's the first time I've heard that.
Listen, I hear it every week. I hear love for MDI. Your eyes light up whenever you start talking about MDI. It's
I'm
just
trying. My goal, as I say, people. One thing I've realized is no matter what I say something nice about somebody, and it means I say something. I all of a sudden it turns into that I said something bad about somebody else.
Yep.
It's like no, that's not what I'm trying to say. I'm not saying something good about MDI to, throw shade at Ellsworth at all.
That's fine. I just want to let you know that's what I hear. I see your eyes light up when you talk about MDI, and it's every week, boys and girls. So
now it's gonna be the topic of discussion at every game I go to this week. So thank you.
Absolutely. I just like to stir shit up, so I like to get Steve in trouble here. So
I know you do. That's for sure.
Yep. Drop it on down to C girls. Madanonwocook, number 1 at 13-1. Definitely got it wrong that time.
Just say the Lynx.
The Lynx, number 1. Sitting in second, the Juggernaut. Penobscot Valley, 14-0, still undefeated in the year. Number 3, my Fort Kent Warriors with an impressive 13-2 record. Shout out to my Warriors. Mount View 4, and then rounding out the top 8, we got Machias, Dexter, Callis, and Central. Steve, can we tier Class C? I mean, we got 4 teams with at least 12 wins on the season already. How would you tier Class C?
I would put Mananoka. Well, if I could put Penobscot Valley in its own tier, I would.
Are you're not going to do that?
Well, can I? If you own Big Time Hoops, I don't. I'm just here as a guest.
You tier them how you want. You're the expert.
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
I just similar to what Class B boys would be. If Penobscot Valley's playing their game, A or A- game, I don't think anybody can beat them. The only team that I think could see beating them is Madanoccook Academy.
That's been their closest game of the year so far. That was a 16-point win for them.
Yep. And then it would be probably Fort Kent, Mount View, Machias, Dexter. Central just lost to Dexter, even though Mary Allen's put up some crazy numbers. Probably those 4 teams, and then it would probably be everybody else. But Penobscot Valley to me is the heavy favorite.
Their last 3 games, they've scored 86 points, 94 points, 99 points. They put points up. They've hit 99 twice this season. Coach Case, let's get to triple digits. Let's just get one more. Let's just hit the century mark one time this year. They got 4 more chances to do that. So they still got Skank this week, Penquist Valley, Madanonwocook one more time on the 4th, and then Dexter on the 6th. So they're getting down to the end of their schedule. So we'll see how it plays out if they stay undefeated. But Steve, just
they still haven't given up 30 they've only given up 30 points twice, and it was on the number.
Yeah. Anything else from C as we look at C, or are you feeling pretty good?
I feel good. It's just Penobscot Valley's got kind of a little bit of everything. Cummings, the post presence, Moulton in the backcourt, Austin is a jack of all trades. It's just, I don't know, they just got everything.
Raymond from three, just
There you
knocking them
go.
down.
Yeah.
My Fort Kent Warriors, as I mentioned, 13-2. We got 3 games left in the season. We got Madawaska this week, Fort Fairfield and Wisdom. So hey, let's finish strong, girls. Let's go 16-2 on the regular season, and then make some noise when it counts come tournament time.
Now, you went to games last year. Was it the night that Fort Kent played back to back? They played the same night?
Yeah.
Is that the games you were at?
Yeah.
That could happen
At the
again this
tournament.
year.
Yeah. Let's hope. If I can go there once instead of making 2 trips, even though it's
Maybe.
a
I
5-minute
got an
ride.
idea. Maybe that game, if I'm not on, we'll do a halftime interview.
Oh, okay.
We'll get Tom Bard on there, halftime interview.
I would love to. I would
You
love
would.
to talk
Good.
hoops. Yeah.
All right.
Let's make it happen.
We'll plug Northbound too.
Yes. Let's drop it on down to D girls. So currently sitting in the top spot, Central Rustic at 13-2, followed by Wisdom. Shout out to Wisdom. We thought that maybe their time had come and gone in terms of maybe winning a D North State Championship. A couple heartbreaks the last couple of years, but right there, number 2 at 12-1. Skank sits third, Bangor Christian fourth, and then rounding at the top 8, we got Shed, Southern Aristic, Ashland, and Stearns. So Steve, as you look at D, go ahead and tier D for us as we head into the final stretch.
Central, Wisdom, Skank, Bangor Christian would be the 4 that I maybe Shed. I don't know enough about Shed to include them or not include them. So they're kind of a wild card to me. And then after that, it would be everybody else. But those are those first 4 teams. Ava Lerman up in St. Agat can score it. Had a big game this past week. They've only got the 1 loss to Fort Kent by 22. So, losing
To
one of the
who? Who's that?
the Fort Kent Warriors,
There we go. Okay.
one of the upper echelon teams in Class C. Panthers got Lily Burt, Pierce, Stevie Pierce, Charlie Pierce, Harley Allen for Coach Tompkins. That's another team. Skank, Bangor Christian has some big wins. And I still just am looking at that. I know they're 11th, but Jonesport BS, I bring it up every episode. If they can get to the postseason, because right now they would play, I think, Ashland in a prelim. If they can get there, they play a very heavy C schedule. They could surprise you. They lost to Shed by 6. So that tells me Shed's pretty good.
Yeah.
And they beat Deer Isle by 18. They've beaten Searsport. They beat Bangor Christian by 2. So it tells me they can compete with the upper teams in D. It's just playing a very difficult schedule. Like they played Machias twice. They got Callis, Narraguagus, Woodland, and Machias to end. I think those are all Class C teams.
There you go.
So
I can't believe we just went through all these classes, Steve. It's the last week of January, and we're already talking playoffs. We have just a couple more games to go, and the prelims will be set, and then obviously tournament time right around the corner. You mentioned a pretty light broadcast schedule for you this week. What's the rest of the week look like? Is there any games that you plan on catching that you're not calling this week since you have some free time?
Well, you talked about the Madawaska Fort Kent game. I likely will stay home and watch that. The Lawrence Coney game on Tuesday, we'll definitely watch that. Then Wednesday, I have senior night over in Caribou. So Holton and Caribou girls. Off on Thursday, Fort Kent, Fort Fairfield doubleheader on Friday. I'm actually off Saturday. I'll probably watch the Foxcroft Academy and Presque Isle games. Big games down in Dover Foxcroft. And then the following, go ahead.
Just doesn't stop. You just, even on nights off, just hoops.
My wife loves basketball. She texts me in the middle of the day and says, what game are we watching tonight?
That's good relation. That's a great relationship problem to have right there. Relationship goals right there, ladies and gentlemen.
Thankfully that she loves basketball.
So
she knew what she was getting herself into. Let's just say that.
As we round up the episode here, Steve, we've been kind of closing out these episodes, the last couple with Steve's rants. Is there anything you want to go off on here before we get up out of here? We talked about the flop warning. We talked about the death of the mid-range. Is there anything else that's on your chest you want to get off before we get up out of here?
my broadcast partner and I on WHOU, Bobby Russell, and I have been going back and forth on this. We're trying to advocate to get me a vote for the Big East Player of the Year, for all Big East teams, a special exemption of a media vote for me.
Yeah.
Not that it should happen by any means. It's more like a running joke per se,
Yeah.
but I would do it. Let's just say that. It's done primarily by coaches, which is fine. You can't vote for your own player. And I know there's some Big East coaches that a lot of them I think listen to this podcast. They don't always tell me, which is fine. They don't have to, but I know they do. They pay attention more than they like to lead on.
Yeah.
So I want the Big East coaches to listen to me for a second here.
Oh, here we go. I like it. Let's go.
We have a lot of great players in the Big East Conference. Upper echelon talent in the state. I think it's the most stacked conference beyond measure. And when I talk about an all Big East team, there's about 3 names that I hear unanimously. Tristan Robbins, Isaiah Irvin, and Emmett Byther.
Yep.
3 bigs that should be on the first team all Big East. Now, you got to look at guards. So I'll ask you, Tom. Do you know some of the guards that would be candidates for first team all Big East?
No, I've heard those 3 names all year. Those are the 3 names that I've heard.
So James Witham would probably be the first one.
Oh, how could I forget about my boy James?
Yeah.
My bad. My bad, James.
MDI, right? Come on.
Here we go. Yeah.
But I want to know this. And if any Big East coach wants to reach out to me, most of them are friends with me on Facebook. Some have my cell phone number. Please reach out to me. I want to know who impacts the game on both ends of the floor more than Owen Corrigan for Caribou. I got his numbers today. Thankfully, Coach Corrigan lets me have access to their huddle system that I can go on and get the stats on my own. And shooting percentages and all this stuff. So 15 points a game, which is top 10 in the Big East. 4 assists per game. 3 steals, which leads the conference. 2 rebounds. Averages a half a block a game, which he's a small guard. He shoots 42% from 3, and it's not like he's taken a few all season. He's shooting quite a few. 82% from the free throw line. 69% from 2. So tell him.
And had the missed breakaway dunk versus Prescott.
He did have that, yes. But I would just want to know by what measurement, what metric, what can you find to tell me that Owen Corrigan does not deserve to be first team all Big East on a 15-1 team, and they are not 15-1 without him. He is a one-man press. He is an efficient scorer on the offensive end. And he puts as much pride in his defense, which I think separates him. You know what I mean? His effort on the defensive end matches what he puts in effort on the offensive end. And I think that is why Owen Corrigan should be first team all Big East. And I will die on that hill.
You've heard it, coaches. You've heard it directly from the man himself. 1, let's get Steve a vote. All right. Even if it's just like an honorary thing, let's get him on there. And 2, Owen Corrigan, this is the official campaign to get him on that all Big East first team. So we'll see if the coaches listen. I like that. Great take, Steve. That's why we close out with your takes here to get up out of here. I'm excited for the Madawaska 4K game tonight. That's what I got my mind set on. After we get past that, Brewer Hampton Academy on Friday is what I got my mind on. But we're almost there, Steve. It's almost time for your tournament picks. So I want you to spend the week thinking about that. And to all the fans out there, our apologies once again for taking the 2-week break. It won't happen again from here on out. We'll be here every week as we get ready for tournament time. So, Steve, unless you got anything else, I'm going to close it out.
I'm good, man. Go Birds.
All right. So there you have it for another episode of Northbound. Steve Carmichael, myself, Tom Bard. Thank you for listening. And thank you to our sponsors at Katahdin Trust Community Banking at its best. For once again leading the way for us as the presenting sponsor on the podcast this week. We really do appreciate all they do. So with that, we'll see you next week with another episode of Northbound, the podcast.